Hi there, welcome back. So if you're watching this, then you've probably already watched part one of my first playthrough of Werewolf the Apocalypse, Heart of the Forest, developed by the fine people over at Different Tales and published by Walkabout Games. If you have not watched part one yet, then I do suggest you do that first because what we're going to be doing in the rest of this playthrough on part two is directly connected to that. I was very, very lucky to be able to get a review copy ahead of time. That's what you guys are seeing now, and play through this wonderful game. And also, do check out my review for the game itself. It should be linked somewhere around here. And you'll be able to catch that, watch that, see what you think, and hopefully you'll think about purchasing this game either on GOG.com or from Steam as well, which is where I got it from. I'm very, very, very excited to dive back into the game. The story has been amazing so far. My choices have been very, very different from when I first played the demo a while back, and some heavy stuff happened, including our friend Anya was viciously torn apart, I should say, during our first changing into a werewolf. So let's go ahead and get back into it. All right, so we're back here. Let's go ahead and continue. I hope everybody's having a great day today. I'm very excited to be finishing this up. Chapter 4, Lost in the Woods. So we got some new information. Our breed is homid. We don't know our auspice or our tribe, but we are the rank of cub, which is something that's directly tied into Werewolf the Apocalypse system itself. Love the artwork. The artwork was inspired by artist Dave McKean, who did a lot of the cover art and some of the other art for Sandman, excellent comic series by Neil Gaiman. Definitely check out Dave McKean's more art. But I love the art that they managed to grab for this. It's very, very, very cool. Okay, let's see here. So we recently met a few different characters here, and so we're playing Maia, Anya, friend that I mentioned before. Rest in peace, Anya. Bartek, who was with the hunting group that attacked us. Seemed to be some locals that did not like the people coming from out of town, out of country, the foreigners coming to protest the logging happening. Daniel, we did not meet Daniel. Actually, we did meet Daniel. Yeah. But we didn't get to talk to him quite a bit. I did have a little bit more of an interaction with Daniel in my demo playthrough. Then we have Cornell, who's a German eco-activist who came to Poland to save Pusha from deforestation. He's an ex-military man who chose to abandon violence. We met Kim, a non-binary punk activist from Berlin who spent their whole life fighting for lost causes. Came to the forest to help an old friend. Then we have Olga, a local activist and the leader of a militant arm of the protesters. She believes in direct action and does not shy away from violence. Then Lisa, a local herbalist and an illegal immigrant from Belarus. She knows a lot about the Pushcha and various uses of forest plants, and is Olga's girlfriend. And then the most important character, one might say, the Pushcha, the forest herself. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. The heart of the forest. The morning smelled of fir, earth, and the forest. Over the gentle snoring that filled the warm space under the low-hanging branches of an old spruce tree, I heard a squirrel. I was hungry. I went outside. I quietly crawled outside. Stepping over the sleeping forms, I made my way outside. Alone, hiding in the tall grass, I sniffed around. The sky was bright, and the forest around me was dark and full of interesting smells. High in the trees, birds yelled about status, sex, and violence. I was in danger. Memories started to come back. Something was wrong with that picture. Something opened in my mind, and memories started flooding back. The run through the night, the bite, the strange dream about being a werewolf. A creature stirred in bushes nearby. A tall, dark silhouette. A strangely familiar smell. I tensed up. And watched the human as they looked around. Maia, there you are, they said when they noticed me. It was time to get out of there. I spasmed. Suddenly, a feeling like a cramp or a spasm surged through me and everything changed. I was Homid, the human form. I hit the ground with my bare ass, colors exploded, the morning breeze suddenly became cold and I shivered. I looked up. Confused, I looked at the person approaching me. You look cold. Cornell smirked and threw me a bundle of clothes. You'd better not change for a while. They won't survive it. Not until you learn the rite, at least. I took the bundle. I snatched the bundle and started pulling the clothes on. Sneakers, loose-fitting jeans, a hoodie with a unicorn. They fit perfectly. I thought about the previous night. When I was raging through the forest, about how differently I experienced the world through the wolf's senses, and about the discomfort and confusion of changing shape. So I was a werewolf. My skull identity mastered the change. There was no denying it. I was no longer human. It made me a monster. Was I in trouble with the law? I appreciate the help. There was a murder last night, I said anxiously. What if they find my DNA at the crime scene? We'll take care of that. Human laws aren't as relevant for you anymore. We just stood there for a moment in silence. I was wondering how one usually learned that they were a werewolf. But how come nobody knew about werewolves? I asked Cornell about his story. So, I said, how did you become a werewolf? I was born a werewolf, it seems, he answered. He was playing with me. I asked again. That was not what I meant. I mean, when did you... I hesitated. You know, change. Oh, that. I was serving in Afghanistan. There was an ambush. Stuff happened. It must have been hard. I'm sorry, I said. It must have been hard. It was, he said. They sent me home with PTSD. And once home, I got found by others. They needed someone who knew how to fight. Why? I asked. We were the real eco-terrorists back then, my pack and I. But I realized that violence only breeds more violence, and it's not the way I want to follow. But how come nobody knew about werewolves? It doesn't make any sense, it suddenly struck me. How come nobody knows werewolves exist? We protect the veil. The veil being a poetic term for the false assumption that the supernatural does not exist, which the delirium reinforces. The whole thing, werewolves, they're probably going to explain it. If a human sees a werewolf, the veil causes delirium in them that makes their brain kind of rewire and rationalize the things that they saw. And the veil is another form, if you play Vampire the Masquerade, kind of like the Masquerade, but it's more supernatural. It's easy to convince humans that supernatural doesn't exist. They already want to believe that. And the delirium helps. Delirium, madness, and memory loss suffered by humans who looked upon a guru in Krynos form. You mean delirium as in the medical condition? I asked, remembering something that I'd read about the acute confusional states. You'll have to ask Pat for that. But the gist is that the humans are incapable of remembering that they saw Krynos, he laughed. They panic, turn away, and instantly forget. Every time. Krynos, the half-wolf, half-human war form of the guru. So that's like the bipedal, like, I'm gonna rip you with my claws kind of shit. Then I realized something. Important. The wolves had awoken. At some point, the rest of the party had awoken and joined us. The clearing was full of wolves. Fuck. Fight or flight. The wolves were closing in on me. I knew my next decision would have serious consequences. Acceptance, cooperation. Yes, accept it. Hiding the bodies. The headless body was heavy. They said that as my first kill, it was my burden. It was my duty to take it to the Barrows. And to do it. I didn't kill her. I got my shit together. Lifted the corpse, and threw it over my shoulder. You have to balance the deaths you cause with your achievements. Cornell looked me in the eyes. Such as the pass of the guru. He accompanied me, carrying the severed head in a bag. The others stayed behind, covering the tracks. I couldn't believe Anya was dead. She only wanted to help you now, I said quietly. She was so worried about what's happening here, and it's hard, Cornell admitted, looking at me with sympathy. But Werewolf, death happens. So the faster you learn to accept it and honor it, the better the soldier you'll be. But the body was too heavy. I kept dragging the body, but the burden was too much to bear. I was tired and hurt. I just couldn't do it anymore. I looked at the body, and I really wanted to say something, but I choked on my words. Curled up into a ball with my arms around my head. I can't, I said, and it was the only thing I could say louder and louder until it became a shriek. I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't! Cornell sighed and kneeled beside me. You're a werewolf, Gaia's soldier. There's nothing you can't do. Get up. We have a world to save, and you have a legacy to fulfill, and a debt to pay. Gaia being the earth in both a physical and spiritual sense, regardless. He was right. I took a deeper breath. He was right. I was here for a reason. I had things to do. I changed. Glabro was strong enough to lift heavy things without breaking a sweat and intimidate. Kranos is a warform, a ruthless killing machine. There's nothing subtle about it. His foe is a monstrous form, smart, fast, heavy, and absolutely scary. And then Lupus. Lupus is the wolf form, and just animal with all its advantages and limitations. Looks great on camera. Glabros. Ooh, blood. The pain was stronger than I ever imagined. I felt my muscles spasm as they rearranged themselves. My jaw cracked and my mouth filled with blood. I clenched my fists and claws drove into my palms. I screamed. When I rose, panting and sweaty, I was more than human. I was Glabro, wolfish, strong, and scary. It hurt. The change hurt more than I expected. The world shifted. Not much, but enough. I felt my teeth get sharper and muscles stronger. I picked up the body. It was a lot lighter. We went on. At some point, I realized we weren't alone. There were two shapes in the bushes on either side of the road. Animals, one big and gray, the other small, nimble, and white. Ah, my companion smiled. I see you've noticed our patrons. A spirit joined to a pack or tribe, representative of its inner nature. Patrons, I remember them from my dream. Yeah, we know each other, I said, remembering my dream. The winter wolf and the morning wolf and the winter weasel. We sort of met the other night. The two animals stopped in front of me in the middle of the path. We came here to teach the cub, said the wolf. She smelled of ash and tears. Was I hallucinating? I couldn't believe what I saw. It made no sense. I felt as if my brain was short-circuiting, trying to interpret signals not meant for human senses. Was there really a wolf? Was it really a weasel? My eyes told me there was a wolf staring at me. When I looked at it, I felt ash on my tongue. I heard a mourning howl so deep it reverberated in my bones, and I smelled fire. And when it talked, it was like the rustling of leaves formed words in my mind. They wouldn't leave me alone. But hallucinations or not, they just wouldn't leave me alone. The weasel circled me, and before I knew it, I could feel small claws on my leg, then on my back, and then on my arm. It smelled of musk and electricity, and then it bit my ear. I tried to shake it off. I ignored it. Why would it do that? I tried to shake it off. Get off me! I yelled, trying to knock the weasel off my arm. Ooh, a feisty one. I like that. Its electronic voice echoed in my head. Enough, the wolf growled. At least that was what my brain decided to hear. I felt the weasel draw its breath. In the beginning, there was Gaia, aka Mother Earth, and she gave birth to a mighty breed of warriors. The weasel began. It sounded electronical, like a teenager reading a Wikipedia page over a voice chat. They were called Garou. That's werewolves and werewolfish, and their sole purpose was to protect Gaia. They failed, wailed the wolf. Garou, term for werewolves used for themselves. I looked to the weasel for advice. I looked at the wolf. Why did they fail? I looked to the weasel for advice. When time began, Gaia released three primal forces upon the earth. The Weaver, manifestation and symbol of order and pattern. The Wild, manifestation and symbol of pure change, the chaos of transmutation and energy force. And the Worm, manifestation and symbol of evil, entropy, and decay. Garou belief. The weasel continued. The Wild was the untamed force of life and creation. The cold, ruthless Weaver gave structure to the world, and the Worm destroyed what needed to be destroyed, creating balance. In World of Darkness speak, or like lore, the Garou believe that vampires are representatives of the Worm. Were we creatures of the Worm, or were we creatures of the Weaver? Were we creatures of the Wild? So we're werewolves, creatures of the wild? We're werewolves, creatures of the wild? I asked. An untamed force of life? They were Gaia's children, the wolf snarled. Born to herd and contain humans. I can see that something went wrong, smiled Riley. The weaver grew too ambitious and trapped the worm within its lifeless web. The weasel answered. Confined and denied, the worm went slowly insane. Now Gaia is dying, choked by the weaver and eaten alive by the worm, wailed the wolf. And the wild is not the one you should fight, she snarled. You were born to protect it. Then it turned and led the way. It took us to the barrows. It didn't look much different than other parts of the forest, until you noticed the mountains, that is. There was something about the flattened hills that drew my full attention. I couldn't remember. A memory stirred in my mind. No, it wasn't a memory. It was a feeling anchored in my chest, akin to the taste of ash in my mouth, the smell of smoke, longing, sadness, resignation. There was more. A sense of sacredness. It filled me with a calm, excitement. When I closed my eyes, I saw a fire burning in the darkness. Cornell kneeled near one of the mounds, put his hands on it, and whispered a few words. I saw the ground open slowly, like a mouth in the earth. I sighed. Let's do this. We put the body in the hole. We took the severed head and the body I'd wrapped up in sheets and put them in the hole. It closed slowly, and I could swear I heard the trees nearby sigh in anticipation. The wolf howled, and I could feel the hair on my hands rise. Welcome to your new life, the talking white weasel grinned. Oh. Welcome to your new life, the talking white weasel grinned. We have something else to show you. I ran with him. The Pushcha. You're a cub, so you have special privileges, said the weasel. Pushcha will grant you a vision. You must see to understand, said the wolf. Think carefully before you choose what to see. The past, your family, the present, the forest, the future, your destiny. Let's go ahead and check my character sheet real quick. Inspiring, analytical, spiritual, cunning, not brave one bit. So, goal, mystery, learn my family history, so that would be good. Stop the logging, hopefully without violence. Pursue to regain willpower. Find your place among the Guru. Pursue to regain willpower. And then here's the... relations, okay. I love this. I love this. I love this. I love this. This is so cool. Oh, the tangled paths. Let me go ahead and drink some water before I get into this. Reading takes it out of me. It just makes me thirsty. It was hard to find the barrows, although I knew where they were. When I looked behind me, the path had disappeared. Pushcha was sympathetic. I felt the Pushcha playing with me, twisting past, blocking my way with bushes and dead trees, and then suddenly opening a new path that was straight and full of sunshine. And I pushed on. Determined, I pushed on. Since the change, I had become acutely aware of how my body worked, and I remembered what humans were good at. Running. Stubborn, relentless, long-distance running. Not as fast as a deer, and as nimble as a wolf, but steady and without rest. So I ran. Then I was there. The barrows. I climbed the nearest hill. When I was at the top, I stumbled on something. A shape in the grass. A skull watching me from its bleached eye sockets. I touched it. Oh, this is fucking... I can see the Sandman references now. This is fucking trippy as fuck. I hope they keep this kind of art style for the... If anybody from Hunters is watching this, I would love more of this kind of art for the Werewolf the Apocalypse 5th edition. So, you know, any of the writers that watch this or anybody from Hunters that watches this, this is dope. I love this kind of art style. It's amazing. The buried past. There is a swirl. It starts deep within me, and then expands. Everything is in motion, and there is no center anymore. I see a bird, I see a forest, I see a village. There is a forest. I run among the trees, and suddenly I see a hamlet where a clearing once was. My howl is like a keen. The houses are mere huts. There's almost nothing that protects the people from the forest. Their clothes are rags, their feet are bare, their hair and long beards are unkempt. There are wolf cubs. There are wolf cubs. Then there is blood. Then the howling begins. The mournful, blood-curdling keening of a mother who has lost her children. Watch, whispers the voice in my head. Watch and remember. But I want to act. But I cannot just stand by and watch. I want to act. I weigh everything for and against the humans, and I find them guilty. The forest listens to me. The forest wakes up, erupts with rage, and powerful furred bodies surge through the trees towards the village. The humans try to escape. They scream and beg for mercy. They try to protect themselves with fire. I take the fire from their hands. The Guru rise up, their talons red with blood, their eyes glaze with fury, and the fire is yanked from the hands of the villagers. I burn their houses. The house starts to burn. I make the wolf mother happy. The caning turns into a howl of joy. I am there from the very beginning. My family burned villages for the Pushcha for ages. The Guru have my eyes, my face, they are my family. I am the blood of their blood. I am part of the story from the very beginning, and I do it again. And then it happens again. The humans return. They rebuild the village, this time stronger and better protected. The caning begins once more. Then we, the Guru, come down on them like wolves on the fold. And again, and again. New villages, new fires, more blood. And again. Again and again, seasons change, centuries pass, the caning continues, villages in the forest burn, until one day there is only one Guru left in the family, and he slays his own kindred in the fit of his first rage. He never forgives himself. He escapes across the ocean. He serves in armies. He burns villages in Vietnam and Afghanistan, but it just feels different. He never forgives himself. He wants to go back. He tells his granddaughter stories about the forest, but he never goes back. Can't move. I stay there and I watch, but I can't move. My throat burns, my stomach is in knots. I want to scream, but I have no mouth. I feel the fire, I smell the blood. I smell ash and tears. I see the large ash-gray wolf looking straight at me. Her eyes are golden. She weeps. It is in your blood, she says to me. It is your duty. It is you. Come with me, child. Be my fang and claws. There is no one else to be my cub. Come to me, child. I will nurse you and I will lick your wounds. We will kill together. We will feast and we will be merry. The forest will grow. I looked at her. And perhaps for the first time, I saw her for who she was. Her pelt was marked with fire. Her eyes were smoking embers. Ash was falling from her heavy flanks. She looked old, ancient, seething with anger. She was mourning incarnated. She was the very idea of mourning made flesh, driven by a feeling of loss so profound that it burned everything in its wake. She was also the Pushcha. She was also the spirit of the forest, the Pushcha herself, wounded, hurt, violated, and mourning all her children that humans had killed. At least that was what I thought when I looked at her. The wolf mother looked back at me, and something in her eyes made me realize that she was helping my family for generations, and that my family used to serve her. Join me, she pleaded. Only you can understand me. Only you. I went to her. And she accepted me. And I accepted myself. Stopped the logging at any cost. And I finally understood who I was. Darkness fell again, and a bloody tide was loosed upon the world. Darkness. One of us. A lone howl pierced the silence like a single ray of moonlight in the darkness. Then there was another one, and then another, and then another. A choir of voices, triumphant and joyful. I opened my eyes. When I opened my eyes, I was in a clearing. Around me there were wolves, huge and monstrous wolves, howling at the moon. I joined them. I was Hispo, the monstrous wolf form. Instinctively I changed and joined the choir. My voice was unsteady at first, but soon I found my own note, a unique addition to the chorus. Well, hello there, Cornell smiled at me, and welcome to the sept. The sept, whatever that meant. Okay, just so you know, I said slowly, I have no idea what a sept is. For a werewolf, the pack is family, Cornell explained, and an alliance of packs united in a common goal is a sept. So there were 2 packs there. I realized that there must be at least 2 packs there. I looked at Olga. 3 of the monstrous werewolves changed. Olga and Lisa stood up, human-looking again, their clothes rumpled. A yellow-eyed wolf by their side turned out to be Daniel. We are the pack of the mourning wolf mother, said Olga. They smelled of ash and tears, and for a moment I saw the wolf spirit among them. I looked at Cornell. A great gray-eyed wolf changed into Cornell, and soon Pat and Kim joined him. We are the winter weasel pack, said Kim. A white shadow settled on Pat's shoulder. I smelled musk and electricity. We are all Gaia's soldiers, said Cornell. In that we have no choice, but we can choose whom we fight alongside. Who is winning the war? If there's a war, I asked, who's winning? At the moment, the worm. Oh, at the moment, the worm, Cornell said. The word reeked of decay and burning oil. Mother Earth is sick, dying, and we are doing our best to protect her. Do I have to join a pack? I asked, just to make sure. No Garu can survive on their own, Cornell said with sympathy. Your old human life is over, but we will never abandon you. I had so many questions. What about the moon? Why did I hear the moon whispering to me, I asked. Luna gave us rage. That is why she's important, Olga said, and that is why you'll never be able to touch silver again. Was every sept that diverse? You're from all over Europe, I noticed. Is this like the standard for a sept? I looked at Olga. I didn't even know if that was a stupid question or a smart one. I looked at Olga. Normally the tribes keep to themselves, Olga promised, but we are in a desperate situation and had to form rather unorthodox alliances. There are at least a dozen tribes, Daniel interrupted. And I hope, Maia, that you will choose yours wisely. How did the spirits work? I asked. How does that work? The world casts a shadow and we call it the Ombra, said Lisa. And in the shadow, every living creature, every emotion and idea, every important object exists as a spirit. That's all you need to know at the moment. Summed it up. So, if I got this all right, I've been conscripted into an ancient war against the worm, I said slowly, trying to put it all together. And the moon gave me rage as a weapon, but I must avoid silver. And there's a whole secret world of spirits, I continued. And I have to join a pack and choose a tribe. Exactly, Lisa nodded. As for the tribe, there are 2 people who can mentor you now. Olga is from the Black Furies. The almost female tribe focuses on atrocities committed against women. They know the mother is female and represent all the resentment and anger women harbor for thousands of years of male oppression. Hated by other tribes because they only fight for half of the planet's inhabitants, the Black Furies. An ancient tribe of women warriors. And Cornell is from the children of Gaia, and he's more a peace and harmony guy. A tribe that believes in peace with humans and that rage is a taint of the worm, not the righteous fury of Gaia. Hated by the other tribes for their reluctance to use violence and their celebration of pacifist human philosophies. Those are both true. Those are both hated by, like, Shadow Lords, Bone Gnawers, Glass Walkers, all of them. What about my family's tribe? The Shadow of Fenris. Hey, what about my family's tribe? I asked. Lisa winced. Daniel sighed. Olga shook her head. What was the matter? I asked again. Your ancestors were the Get to Fenris, and no one here wants to have anything to do with that tribe, as they stand against everything we believe in. My grandpa had nothing to do with that. My grandfather didn't even know you, I was outraged. You can't judge me by his tribe's actions. You know that your family was burning villages for centuries, Lisa pointed out. Did you ever wonder why? Get a Fenris are the most radical Garu supremacists that ever marred the face of Earth, Kim scoffed. Like, legit fascist werewolves. Some of them literally worked for Hitler. True story. Tribe werewolf supremacists who celebrate the destruction of the human world that Father Fenrir promises at Ragnarok. Antagonistic to the other tribes to the extent that some whisper of worm taint. Hated and distrusted, many see them as another enemy in the war of apocalypse. I had the right to know my legacy. Thank you for telling me, I said. I had the right to learn about where I came from. For a moment we were all silent. I needed to know more about the tribes. I wanted to learn more about the tribes and find an option that would really resonate with who I was. asked Daniel if I could join his tribe, but he didn't understand the question. I'm a red talon, he said, as if it explained everything. What exactly are red talons? I asked Daniel. It is the tribe of the Guru who are born as wolves, Daniel explained. We usually don't mix with others, and we kill humans. But since I'm the only one here, I decided that it was better to join the rest. It was a wise decision. It's better to have a pack than to be alone, I said. He nodded. There's always strengths in numbers. I protect my folk better when there are more werewolves around. Your folk? Wolves. That's all I wanted from him. He's caught. Thanks. That's all I wanted from him. I talked with Kim. Kim told me a lot about bone gnawers, urban werewolves fighting for the disadvantage of the marginalized children of the rat. They stand for the rights of the poor and disenfranchised everywhere, making their homes in favelas, squats, and camps, hated by the other tribes because they act like tame dogs, eating the scraps on the human table. Do they really have a rat as a patron? I asked. Sure we do, Kim answered. It's a very good patron. Resilient. You want to be like a rat? Always managing, always afloat? They kept talking. And this shit here, they gestured around. This shit comes from prejudice, and from exclusion, and from greed. Take greed and prejudice away, and 90% of the world's problems are solved. They sighed heavily. Now tell it to the other guru, and they look down at you, because you are a bone gnawer. They think they are superior. Prejudice everywhere. Talk with Lisa. I asked Lisa about her tribe, but she inherited her, Siberic legacy. Yes. Legacy from her Buryat grandfather. She said I didn't know the proper legends, customs, and culture to join. Their hate, sorrow, and rage are deeper than any other tribes, because their icy Siberian homeland is melting and decaying. Now they are despised by other tribes as half-breed loners who care only for themselves. How did she become a werewolf? I asked Lisa. My grandpa saw that I had a soul of a wolf and started teaching me about the spirit world. She looked at me with her violet eyes. When the time was right, he guided me through the change. I didn't really remember my grandpa. My grandpa was telling me stories, I sighed, but I forgot most of them. I forgot how he looked. You remember more than you realize, Lisa said. How else would you know the high tongue? Just the language of the Guru. It depends as much on body language and tone as on the actual words. Much of it is instinctive, accented by pheromones, growls, and whines. Siberic. So I asked, not sure how to approach the topic. Siberia, I mean, you're from Siberia. I hesitated, Lisa smirked. But the tribe name reminded me of something. Yes, Siberac. She pronounced it differently, so it sounded like a Polish word. I must have heard it before. I'm sure that I heard it before, I said, in a different context. In Russian, it means someone from Siberia, but in Polish, it has its own very specific meaning. Lisa explained, it's a word for political prisoners exiled to Siberia, and there were tens of thousands of them. Which mean did she prefer? Which mean do you identify with, the Polish or the Russian? I asked. Lisa smiled. My tribe name describes both of my legacies. My granny was a political exile, my grandpa was a Siberian indigenous. I use it because it speaks the truth. I asked her about the Wolf Mother. What about the morning wolf Mother, I asked. She's mighty and powerful. There was a tone of deep respect on Lisa's voice. Who was she? Tell me more, I asked. She's old. Very old. We don't know when she first appeared here. I think she's the avatar of the forest. What did she want? What does the Wolf Mother want from us, I asked. I keep asking myself the same question, Lisa halted, looking for words. She knows how to find her way to people's heads. Lisa looked at me for a moment, deciding what to say next. I respect her, but sometimes I think she gets into Olga's head too much. Olga lets her in, and the wolf pushes. I don't know. Maybe it's the right way to do things now? I didn't comment. I decided to keep my conversations with the Wolf Mother to myself. How did she come to Poland? So how'd you get here, I asked. Lisa is sympathetic. Well, my grandfather was from the old tribe, from up north, proper north, Siberian. Her voice was trembling. But we are spread around the world now, because old Siberia is gone, melted, rotting. Well, I came here in search of a better life, through the forest, illegal. I still wait for my papers to be sorted. She wasn't exactly hiding. That's true. Are you afraid they'll catch you? You are not? I searched for words. You're not exactly hiding, I said finally. Nah, Lisa shrugged. You know, I do things here and there, help with the tourists, help with the forest, and my moonshine is the best in this province. Besides, I made a pact with spirits. They watch over me, distract people when they get too nosy. That was all I wanted from her. Thanks, that's all I needed to know at the moment. Talked with Pat. Pat was a glasswalker. Her tribe was finding its niche and cutting edge. Technological, cityscapes among the strands of the Weaver's net. It sounded intriguing. We talked for a while. Glasswalkers, an adaptable tribe of urban human lovers who worship the Weaver, at least freely use its tools to fight the worm. Hated by the other tribes for their willingness to abandon the old ways and embrace the tools of the enemy. What was she doing in the forest? So you're basically a city dweller, I observed. All glasswalkers are. It's our natural habitat. I feel quite out of place in the forest. I got my interest. Is it a tribe thing? I asked, interested. That's what it is, she nodded. We use the Weaver to fight the worm, and the forest is not the Weaver's domain, and I happen to be quite fond of humanity. They have great potential. How'd you get a spirit patron, anyway? How did you get a winter weasel to be your patron? I was curious. I caught it, said Pat. Or rather, I made sure it would have had more to eat with me than alone. That's how you catch weasels. Was it a forest spirit? But it is a forest spirit, isn't it? I think it's a weasel, so it gets accustomed to live where there's food. Right now it's the city. It hunts electricity spirits these days and feasts on them. She didn't look like a werewolf at all. I wouldn't take you for a werewolf, you know, I said to Pat. She snorted. Why? She looked harmless. Because you look mostly harmless, I admitted. She shrugged. I am. I didn't expect to turn out a werewolf either. I was a student, happy with my tablet and coding, and then, boom! I was a guru. How did you meet Cornell? How did you meet Cornell? I was curious. I was in his first pack. We were both hanging out with the hacktivist crowd back then. When things went south and he disappeared, I found him. What happened exactly? He said that things went south, I pressed on. What happened exactly? Our pack was killed strictly because we were following Cornell's plan, said Pat. And she still followed him? Yet, you're still following him? I couldn't believe my ears. We've both learned a lot. We have a good working relationship. She sighed. You know, he is stunning. He makes a great impression. The 1st, the 5th, the 10th as well. But he's not a leader, if you know what I mean. I didn't know how to answer. Well, a true leader puts his pack first, and himself second. Cornell makes great first impressions. I had to think it over. Finally, I stopped asking. I had to think over what I had learned. But I didn't want to talk anymore. I was too exhausted to bug them with personal questions. Oh, you're getting a real lore dive here in Chapter 4. There are a lot of werewolves, too. One thing is bugging me, I said. Why are there so many of you here? Suddenly everyone in Białowieża is a werewolf, or what? You know nothing, cub. Oh, nothing really. A mere century ago, there were dozens of packs in these forests. But none of the old guards survived the 90s, Lisa shook her head. We had to start from scratch. Until you showed up. There are only 6 of us, and the 3 of us not even local, Cornell pointed out. 2 packs too small for their own good. Anyway, before you're admitted to a tribe, you need to prove yourself. What now? Prove myself? I was shocked. I hadn't proved myself enough already. Rite of passage. You went through your first change, Pat said. She was laying on a tree nearby. And you know everything you need to know at the moment. We have to go through the rite of passage. Daniel rubbed against my flank, excited. A vision quest, Kim winked at me. And since we don't have time for tests, we need to solve a real problem. Olga stepped in. Namely, we want you to find a way of ending this logging problem, Cornell said gently. So, how would you like to do it? They looked at me in anticipation. I took my time, enjoying the moment. My body was buzzing with energy, ready to shift shape on the slightest sign of danger. My mind was clear. I knew what to do. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do. We need to find the source of the corruption, I decided. When we eradicate the cause, the symptoms will go away. Ken looked unconvinced. Never mind the loggers, Ken made a dismissive gesture with her hand. We have to inspire the protesters. Lisa rolled her eyes. You're all blind and ignored our most powerful ally. There are many ancient spirits in the Puszcza, and we should talk to them. I continued with my plan. There must be someone responsible for the shit in Białowieża. God, I nailed it yesterday. Białowieza. Here at the local level. Białowieza. I continued. I want to have a talk with them. Cornell bared his teeth in a predatory smile. I know exactly who we should talk to. Daniel beamed. Spoken like a true Philodox. You were born under a half-moon, weren't you, Maia? Brace battles between human wolf, fury, and wisdom, acts as judges and walking. How did he know? So, my demo playthrough, I was under a gibbous moon, a waxing gibbous moon, which I think is Galliard. And so this one, I'm more Philodox. Mom always told me that when she gave birth to me, the half moon was shining through the window. I reminded her that this too shall pass. I nodded. So, taking all of that in, all my decisions have led to Auspice as Philodox, with +3 to honor. You're right, I nodded. How did you know? Garou born under the half moon are judges and truth seekers, said Cornell. Just like you and me. A worthy Philodox is honor personified, added Lisa. Your place in the werewolf society will be determined by your renown. You can earn glory through defeating mighty enemies and succeeding in dangerous quests. You earn honor by following your moral imperative and upholding the laws of the Garou. You can earn wisdom by acting efficiently and thinking well before you act. Your renown will change as you play, contributing to Maia's legend among the Garou. No pressure at all. I felt overwhelmed. Olga must have sensed my confusion. Come on, we have a lot to discuss, she patted my shoulder. We have to find your phone and wallet. So I followed her. Tie up loose ends in my old life. Back to the beginning. I'm sitting on a bus, the sun streaming through the windows, making it hard to see. The narrow road cuts through a dense old forest. My mind wanders. I remember doing something important, walking among the trees, looking for something, losing something I loved, gaining something unwanted. But then I'm fully awake and the memories scatter away. We're almost there, says Anya. I did some searching. She looks at me from her phone. And this place is amazing. The last primordial forest in Europe. I'm excited to be here. I know, right? I smile. I can't. I'm not able to finish. I start to cough. I spit blood. My throat is sore. My lungs hurt. That's fucking tripping as shit. I need to stop the bus. I get up and shove to the driver, physically sticking out my hand as a torso. Something's stopping me. Spiders. I am crawling with small spiders, thousands of them weaving their cobwebs around me, around the seat, around everything. I fight. I try to fight them, but they're too small and there are too many of them. And after a few seconds, I am covered in cobwebs, unable to move. There's a hiss. I hear a hiss. Then slowly, a long, dark, thin shape comes out of Anya's ripped neck. A black snake that reeks of rotten meat, acid, and oil. Don't fight, Maia. You're already mine. It says, just like your grandpa. And then it kisses me. Strange. Chapter 5, The Plan. Get that good Vasa. Loose ends. I woke up in my bed in the B&B, and for a moment thought the whole werewolf business had been a dream. Then I looked at Anya's empty bed, exactly how she left in the morning room to see the protests. She was dead. The reality of the situation hit me. Anya was dead. I'd killed her. I had to clean up my mess. Anxious, I packed her things. Looking over my shoulder, I packed her things. The plan was bulletproof. I needed to stick to the plan. She said she'd use her favors with some network spirits and hack Anya's phone. It would log into some towers in Germany and the Netherlands, ping the social networks a few times before anyone noticed anything was amiss. There would be nothing to tie the disappearance to us. My hands were trembling. Who had I become? My hands were trembling and I was sweating bullets. Fuck. I punched the closed door and my hand went straight through the wood, splinters digging deep into my flesh. And then I lost it. I was Kranos, the war form. I I am sad and hurt, my friend is dead. I will overcome with guilt, and the window panes shatter. The shards of glass glimmer in the sun. I smash the room to pieces. I smash the wardrobe. One flick of my wrist, and the wardrobe turns into a cloud of splintered wood. I break the bed. I lift the bed and smash it against the floor. I wreck the room. I punch holes in the walls. I smash the windows. I tear Anya's things to pieces. Stop it! Someone shouts to the door. I'm calling the police! I change back. I have to stop. I change back. Listening to the shouts in distant silence, I quietly pack what remained of my things. What was I thinking? I asked my reflection in the shard of broken mirror. I didn't know how to answer. I shrugged. Whatever the answer was, it was now Maia the werewolf's problem. Maia the student was dead. I took my bag and left. I dropped my bags in the camp and ran through the plan one more time. They expected me to act like a philodox, but we'd also discussed other plans more sophisticated. Galliard, stories, propaganda, theurge, spirits, rituals, rare beetles. We're gonna go to the Barras. We're gonna follow Philodox. Follow the money. With Olga's pack's local connections and Cornell's pack's technological wizardry, we followed the money and found out who was paying the loggers and security guards. Behind all the ideology and politics, it was all just business. We had to stop the money flowing. They were cutting down trees because someone was paying them to do it. We decided to stop the money flowing. Finally, we were ready. After a few days of stakeouts and preparations, we identified our target and were ready to move. We started with a kidnapping. We let him out in the middle of the forest. I took the lead. I yanked the bag off the man's face. Cornell lifted a flashlight and shined it in his eyes so he couldn't see us. The man reeked of fear and too much aftershave. I knew him. I looked at him and sighed. This was going to be easy. Smiled. The job was going to be easy. I realized that I knew a lot about our target, because the man behind the local logging industry was Bartek's father. But that didn't matter. But our personal connections didn't matter. That night I wasn't a person, but a philodox, Gaia's justice. The man whimpered and shielded his eyes. It was time to deliver my message. I was blunt. Stay away from the forest, I was blunt, or I'll kill you and feed your carcass to the wolves. He almost shat his pants. I could smell it, but he decided to play the tough guy. Fuck off, you bitch, he yelled. I'm gonna make your life a fucking misery. Just you wait. I know the chief of police. I know MPs. You won't get away with this. Who do you think you are? No, I'll show you who I am, I said quietly. I felt Cornell tense by my side, but he said nothing, just watched. Deep breath. I'm focused. I changed. Go to Glabro for intimidation. My muscles spasmed and rearranged themselves. My jaw cracked and my mouth filled with blood. I clenched my fists and claws drove into my palms. Panting and whimpering, I changed. I was more than human, wolfish, strong, scary. I know who you are, I growled in a deep, inhuman voice. A small, sad, fat man who's only good at owing money and being despised by his own wife. I could smell his fear rising, and I was glad. I know where you live, I growled. I know when you sleep, and I know when you wake up. We're watching your every move. He looked me in the eyes, transfixed like a deer caught in the headlights. His lower lip started to tremble. That was just the beginning. Run! I kicked him. I said run! The night was still young. I hunted him for long hours, confident that I would easily find the man, no matter what trick he tried. But I lost him. Damn it. But he knew the forest well. He dodged, he turned, and before I could get my bearings, he was gone. I stood there, panting. Cornell came to my side. Shit! He said. The sky was getting brighter. The forest was waking up. Shit. Yeah, I fucked that one. It doesn't kill us. I couldn't sleep that night. Punishing the local lobbyist was supposed to be my rite of passage, and I failed. What would be the consequences? I didn't know, and that scared me. We met soon after the sunrise, on the same clearing where I woke up the first time as a guru. Lisa looked at us all inside. Our patrons were looking at her expectantly, so she stepped towards the center of the clearing. I am the theurge of this sept, and I am here to make sure we do the things the right way. I held my breath. She turned to me, and I held my breath. Maia, come forth. Are you a cub who seeks recognition as an adult? I answered. I am, I answered solemnly. Are you an applicant to a tribe? Lisa asked again. I confirmed. I am, I answered. Who speaks for the cub? Lisa looked at her stepmates. I do, Cornell stepped forward. I'm blind prophet of the children of Gaia. Theodox of the Ventaviesel pack. I observed the cub on the mission. I'm here to tell the story. I have to take a new name. I guess they all had secret werewolf names. It made sense. A new life demanded a new name. Would I also have to take a new name? Has the cub passed her challenge? Asked Lisa. No, I didn't. I sagged, knowing that I failed. She failed, was the inevitable answer, but she fought bravely against overwhelming odds, and I think she's ready. I wonder what would happen next. So what now? I asked. Should I pack my things and go home, or what? We should have spent more time teaching the cub, and test her when she was ready. Lisa gave Olga her I told you so look. There was no time, Olga snapped. I waited in silence. There were so many things I wanted to say, but I bit my tongue and stayed quiet. I'll vouch for her, Cornell put his hand on my arm. The challenge was unfair, and she did well for a cub. For the decision. So be it, said Lisa after a while. But if anything goes wrong, the cub is your responsibility. Lisa turned to me. Have you chosen your name? Lisa turned to me. My new secret name. Suddenly I remembered my grandfather talking about his old friends. He never used their real names. They were always Thunder or Gray or Needle. I always thought it was a gorilla thing. Some kind of war names. Now I wasn't so sure anymore. How to capture my whole life, my aspirations, my personality, my heritage in one name. I cleared my throat. Missed a name with one meaning. Skala, which was Polish for rock. A pine, a tree in the forest, enigma. My new name was Skala, a rock. I answered, imagining anchor that would allow me to keep an unbiased judgment. Choosing the tribe was another matter. Tribe, Children of Gaia. After getting to know both Old and Cornell better, I decided to join the Children of Gaia. Cornell agreed to mentor me. Only one thing remained to end the ceremony and make me a full-fledged Garou. I had to join a pack. I'd already sworn to the Wolf Mother. Cautious, warning Wolf Mother, not to reason cautious. As my fate had already been tied with the Wolf Mother, I chose her as my patron and joined Olga's pack. There was no love lost between me and Olga, but I was a valuable addition to her pack, and she was good enough leader to recognize it. And so it was done. According to ancient rites, Lisa painted the mystical glyph of my tribe on my sternum. It disappeared after a moment, but whenever I closed my eyes, I could feel its warm touch between my breasts. Skaya, of the Children of Gaia, Philodox of the Morning Wolf Mother Pack. Welcome to our sept, she said solemnly. Then she howled. Howls rose toward the sky. They sang about ancient laws of war, status, and secrecy. I remembered only a few. Combat the worm wherever it dwells and whenever it breeds. Submit to those of higher station. Respect those beneath you. The veil shall not be lifted. I joined the song. I threw my head back and howled with my sept. I was a cub no more. I was ready to tell my own stories, to earn my own place in the pack, to howl my own songs. Well, I didn't do so great in the rite of passage. Let's hope that doesn't fuck us over later. Start the chapter. Dust to dust. It was one of those blistering summer days with the asphalt melts, the grass withers, and the air smothers that was brave enough to step outside. Despite the heat, it felt like the whole village was at the funeral. It was moving. I stood there, surrounded by people weeping over their loss, looking at the rosaries they clutched in their fists. Something tightened in my chest. For a brief, chilling moment, I thought I saw Anya's face among the crowd. But no, I buried her in the barrows myself. Nobody there even knew that she was dead. It was someone else's funeral. Anya was not the reason we gathered in the churchyard. The body of a hunter had been found in the forest. The circumstances of their death were unclear. It was our doing. My doing, and the death had tipped the scales. Did they die because they deserved it, or did they happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, in the company of someone who couldn't hold her temper? Was that justice, or yet another sin demanding to be avenged? I could feel the tension seething around me. This death, this funeral, had pushed the community, already weary and frightened by the recent disappearance of an activist in the forest, to the edge. The world was watching. The press had swarmed the funeral like flies. I could hear them squawking about eco-terrorism and aggressive vegan activists. The police had cordoned off the funeral and were aggressively searching and detaining any activists they noticed. It had become political. Suddenly, Puszcza Białowieska had become politically charged and the hottest place to be in Poland. And it wasn't only local politicians and activists from both sides who caught wind of the commotion. The Minister of Environment himself had driven to, Białowieża Białowieża, to attend the funeral. He was standing next to the priest conducting the ceremony, surrounded by police and what looked like a handful of bodyguards. The coffin went down and the crowd stirred. Everyone started lining up to throw a handful of dust in the coffin and put flowers in the grave. I found myself face to face with Bartek. I got swept by the crowd and found myself face to face with Bartek. There should be another coffin here because we both know that she's dead. He looked me in the eyes. I really liked Anya, you know. It all has something to do with you, he said, and I'll find out what. I said nothing. I didn't know what to say. Bartek looked me in the eyes. Funny thing. It's like all the strange things started happening as soon as you all came here. I looked over his shoulder at the crowd. It was clear that many people felt the same way that he did, and the minister knew how to use that sentiment. I listened in disbelief. I watched in disbelief as the priest handed him the mic. He wasn't someone you'd call a good speaker. He spoke at length about the Polish economy, the importance of the free market, and the liberty of the people to make money from what God had given them to reign over the earth. Judging by the reactions, it was exactly what the crowd wanted to hear. He was trying to escalate. I realized the conflict was only going to escalate. He was determined to push on with the logging. Our plans to cut off local funding had backfired, and now we had to face both the government and the local population as well. We were ready to defend ourselves. The last stand. It was high noon, the sun was at its most merciless, and the world was almost white with heat. The air smelled of herbs, bark, and tree sap. Insects buzzed lazily in the high grass. Stunned by the warm summer sun, we were ready for war. We lounged in the shadows of the trees, resting after a busy night. We were ready for war. I watched the clearing. I watched the clearing with cold detachment, running through possible scenarios in my head. There weren't so many of us, but everyone in the clearing knew why they were there. We weren't the only ones in the clearing. A group of local citizens, their banners reading, "Foresters save trees from woodworm," and "Forestry equals jobs," were trying to get the attention of the media. The Pushcha didn't care. The Pushcha didn't care for us. Compared to her, we were like mayflies. 1 second there, a second later gone. Her fate was in our hands. We could, second after second, save or destroy the primeval forest. I thought about my family. For centuries, my family served the Pushcha, burning villages and hunting down people who dared to hurt her. And now, I was the last guru of my lineage. What legacy did I want to leave behind? I looked at the harvesters. I looked at the shiny new harvesters lurking across the clearing. Loggers pulled around them like ants over a disturbed anthill. The pressure was almost palpable, and timbers were flaring. I looked at my pack. Everyone knows what to do? Olga asked, looking at my pack. I'll keep the security guards occupied, nodded Lisa. And I'll guard the Pushcha's perimeter, growled Daniel. I glanced at the weasels. The weasels were in their positions among the protesters as agreed. Then it left the cops to me. I was ready to fight them. I'll deal with the cops, I said, and then we will burn the machines. That's not the plan, Olga reminded me with a clear expression. Keep your eyes on the cops and stay put. The cops were gathering. The cops were gathering in increasing numbers, and I noticed some SWAT teams joining them. Something was up. It was apparent that they were waiting for something, and then it reached boiling point. It reached boiling point when the minister arrived for a photo op. We could use that. I took it as a good sign. We could use his presence to our advantage in more ways than one. I calmed down slightly. Journalists swarmed around him, praising his balanced forestry policy as they steered clear of the ugly harvesters. In hindsight, you could argue that what happened next set a chain of events in motion that had life-changing consequences for many. But it all started earlier. It all started centuries earlier when the first wolf cubs were stolen and the mourning wolf mother asked my foremothers for help. Everything that happened next, the burning villages, my grandfather escaping to America, my mother running away from my father, my return to Białowieża was a direct consequence. The members of my sept had already moved to their positions, and I also had my part to play. It was our chance to start negotiations. Olga raised her eyebrow. If you think there's any sense of talking to them, she smirked, now's the fucking time. She grabbed me by the elbow and literally dragged me across the field clearing to where the minister and his people were standing. I thought about what to say. As we were pushing through the crowd, I planned what I was going to say. I was pretty confident. I had it all planned out and felt quite confident. But Olga had her own plans. Minister! Minister! She yelled. Do you have a moment to talk about what's really going on in the forest? I caught his gaze. He looked at us coldly, like we were vermin. His eyes were distinctly dark and lifeless, like a shark, I thought suddenly. No, he said, smiling. We don't talk to terrorists. I put my hand on Olga's shoulder and felt how tense she was. Her muscles vibrated. Resisting the change. He's not worth it, I whispered. We'll find another way. We went back to regroup. The activists, humans, and werewolves alike listened as we told them what had happened. The atmosphere was tense. We started our preparations. We prepared ourselves for the worst-case scenario. Okay, let's move, I heard someone shout. Move it, people, move it, you know what to do. And they did. There was a lot of laughter and friendly pushing, chains clinking, and some people darted up the trees to seek themselves in the branches. I can't do my philodox. I was assigned to the human chain. I helped to form the human chain. Hey, I heard, get those arms behind you. That's it, attaboy. It hurts, moaned a man's voice. Next time do some yoga beforehand, huh? That's it, people. Open your hearts so you can hold your wrists behind your backs. So I locked my wrists. I threaded my arms, the arms of the people to my left and right, and then grabbed my wrists behind my back. It was tight on my shoulders, hot and very sweaty. Then we waited. We sat down, one long human chain, and watched the loggers and police as they approached, and then stopped. The sun shone and it was calm, and it was serene. It was useless. The mister looked at us with dark, lifeless eyes. The police were regrouping, getting into formation. Their shields were ready. They were wearing masks. I could hear the unmistakable sound of a gun being cocked. I braced myself. I spat, and then a tear gas canister started raining down on us. The police came through the smoke like a horde of demons, kicking and beating the protesters, sat on the ground, yanking them away and breaking the human chain. I felt the hand grab on my shoulder, and I acted on reflex. I bit it. I sank my teeth into flesh, my mouth filled with blood, and the officer screamed. Final bang. The real fight began. The adrenaline kicked in, the world split into freeze frames. I changed. The pain was overwhelming. My spine cracked and twisted. My knees and ankles broke, and I fell on the ground. My jaw shattered and rearranged. My whole skin was on fire, rippling and sprouting fur. I howled in agony. When I rose, panting and spitting blood, I was Hispo with strong paws, mighty jaws, and a mane of fur. More than a wolf, scary and monstrous. I charged at the loggers. I saw a young man in work overalls staring at me with a terrified expression, an axe raised in his hands. I lunged at him. I lunged at him, knocking the axe from his hands and tackled him to the ground. When I closed my teeth on his throat, he fainted, and I lost interest. The cops were coming. The cops were running our way, shouting orders, batons raised, faces earned with anger. I attacked them. I gnashed and growled as I lunged at them. They managed a few blows with the batons, but soon they were all lying on the ground, groaning. I changed. I was Krenos, the war form. Pain hits me like a wrecking ball. Every bone in my body breaks and moves and resets. I roar in agony. Panting and growling, I rise and rise and rise. I'm an 8-foot-tall killing machine. SWAT. A SWAT team appears in full riot gear, their faces grim behind their visors, their guns ready to pepper us with rubber bullets. I attack the enemy. I hurt myself at the enemy. They fight back. They hurt me, but I hurt them more. I assess the situation. I was home in the human form. I looked around the battlefield. The situation wasn't looking good. The police were pushing forward, the protesters were retreating. It wouldn't be long before they were cornered, beaten, and dragged off. We needed something to turn the tide. I pointed at the retreating minister. When all hope of a photo op with a group of happy citizens was lost, the minister of environment made a break for his car. He reeked of fear and greed, and I realized he'd almost convinced himself that he was saving the Pushcha, that he was serving his country, but all the checks from lobbyists were just a blessing for all his hard work. It was time to act. And I was fed up with overthinking it. I was Gaia's justice, and it was time to pass judgment. So I delivered a message. I started running. The bodyguards raised their guns. The bullets hurt. I was Kratos, the warfare. The bullets puncture my body, and it hurts, but I don't stop until I reach him. He looks at me, drooling and crying for help. I deliver the message. I grab him and feel his bones break. I was Glabro, the near-human form. I looked him straight in the eyes and growled, "Leave the Pushcha alone." Before he fainted, I smelled his piss. Suddenly, I realized that I'm still bleeding, and my wounds aren't healing anymore. There's pain and darkness. Epilogue. Pain. I think I got the bad ending. I lay there on the ground, my face buried in the grass. Blood was gushing from my wounds, and the more I tried to use my hands to stop the bleeding, the more it seemed to flow. I coughed, bubbles of blood and air coming from my mouth. Was this it? Was this how it was all going to end? On the grass, in an ancient forest, in a place I'd never seen, among people I didn't really know? My thoughts were slow. I remembered. We'd come to a conclusion. A fragile armistice that would stop the logging and save the forest. The forest was safe for now. There was hope. There was always hopes. I briefly wondered what happened to the others, but I closed my eyes. Last breath. Your story is almost over. This might be a good time to take a last look at your character sheet. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, I did not do great. How's that for a first playthrough? The grass will heal all wounds. It will cover everything, I thought. No matter how high we pile the bodies, if we let her work, no one will remember the carnage. It will grow on my bones, and my body will become a mound in the forest. That was my legacy. There was a fire, and there was a village, and there was generation after generation. Their bodies littered throughout the forest, covered with grass and ferns. The warriors who had protected the land and died for it. I was the last, and then our story would come to an end. I heard a voice. Come, child. I heard a voice and felt a warm, wet touch on my cheek. Come. Was it worth it? I rolled on my back and opened my eyes for the last time. The night sky above me was filled with a gigantic wolf made of stars. She had the moon between her eyes. A tear rolled down my cheek. She looked at my face again. Come, she said. And I went. You have finished Heart of the Forest. Cubs gather around the fire and listen to the story of Maia Borodich, known as the Guru Askalia, as the children of Gaia. Philodox of the Morning Wolf Mother Pack. Her judgments were wise. Maia died fighting for the Pushcha. Remember her in your songs, because her death was not in vain. The Pushcha was safe, at least for a while. The first protest against the logging of the Białowieża forest took place in 2016. The game was loosely inspired by those events. All characters and events depicted in this game are entirely fictitious. And here's the credits. Our pack, Werewolf the Apocalypse, was designed and developed by Different Tales. I'm going to let the credits roll because I really do want everybody to see that. Oh, this music is great. Music is phenomenal. I really want to showcase them and everybody, like all of them that worked on it really, really hard. I love the game. I love the game. I love the art direction. I love the story. It's kind of short in the playthrough, but that's meant for you know, multiple playthroughs and stuff like that. I obviously did not get a great ending. I got one the pain epilogue, which is where Maia is a martyr, and I loved it. I can't wait to play through it again. I'm going to play it multiple times. I'll probably play it on stream, and that'll be great. That'll be a great time. I'll make some completely different choices. Hopefully get a better ending. Hopefully manage my willpower a little bit better. I think that's what really curved the ending to end up how it did. But I can't wait to play it some more times. I will have a more in-depth review later, and I'll have that up on. That's probably the first video up on a review on the day of release, everything like that. Walkabout Games. Jakub Rakowski, Katarzyna Ziba. And I do apologize for butchering Polish. I am not Polish in nature. I do not know Polish, but I would love to learn more. So please, if you have any corrections or anything that I can go to learn a little bit more about the language and the culture and stuff like that, please do get in the comments and let me know, because that would be very helpful for me. I know that Outstar is going to be hopefully doing a playthrough of this, and I know that she would have a greater grasp on the language, being that she is from Poland. But I'm very glad that this game exists. It's done beautifully, the artwork is amazing, the story is great, the writing's great. Yeah, and I'll have a more in-depth review for it here in a little bit. Let's go ahead and go through the rest of these credits though. Justin Akili, Sean Greeny, Thomas Arfert, Kareem Muammar, Martin. Yep, there's Outstar right there. Martina Zich, Jason Carl, and then Paradox. Paradox Interactive. Alright Rights Reserved. Thank you guys for making this possible. All of you guys for having a hand in this. Heart of the Forest has been made in the wonderful Unity engine. Copyright Unity Technologies. It was written in ink. And let's go back to the main menu. Different Tales, Werewolf, Hearts of the Forest. So, that was my first playthrough of Heart of the Forest. I hope you enjoy. Please do consider buying the game. I would like to thank Piotr again for sending this to me so I could play it. You can follow Different Tales you can go to their website, which is differenttales.com/werewolf. You can also follow them on Facebook. It's www.facebook.com/Different Tales. And also Twitter. Their handle is @DifferentTales. You can find them there. And then Walkabout Games. Walkabout.games is their website. You can look them up on Facebook, and as well as their Twitter handle is @walkabout_games there. And do take the time to go purchase this game, watch other people stream it, talk about it, share, boost about it. I'm really glad that this brand is getting the recognition that it is. I can't wait to play more of this. I can't wait to see more people play this. And I can't wait to have more experiences with Maia and the rest of this wonderful cast of characters. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. I hope you enjoy this game, and thank you so much for going through this journey with me. I will see you at the next stream, I guess. Have a good evening, and don't forget, comfort comes soon. Bye now.